Here we are, episode 6 of Destination Unknown, a solo travel adventure. So far I've been through Iceland, Ireland, England, and Spain. I went to Morocco last episode. I ended the Morocco episode with a terrible sickness, but I made it back into Spain and that seemed to do it for me. The only thing that was really left over was that my stomach was shrunk to the size of a little golf ball since I hadn't been eating for many hours, and I had to reintroduce larger portions of food into my stomach slowly. I also wrote down that I ate vegetarian for a while because I could feel the effect of meat on me too much after my sickness. From Algeciras, the port city, I went to Cádiz. Then I would take a bus over to Sevilla and then to Lisbon, Portugal. My great friend Toby was going to be in France and I was going to meet him there after Portugal. I was very excited to see him. He's somebody that I'm very close to and I really wanted to spend time with somebody that I know very well. It's fun meeting all these travelers and seeing all the different vibes and ideas, but I know Toby very well and I wanted some of that Toby energy. There's nothing like it. Now, I took that bus into Lisbon, Portugal, and arrived at 5 a.m. I was very tired, very confused, as the bus was supposed to take 6 hours, which means I would have arrived at 7 a.m., but instead it took only 4 hours, and so I had a lot of time to kill, and no shops were open. I was gonna just walk into town, but a group of Spanish people came up to me and asked if I wanted to join them in trying to figure out what to do. I was a little weary of the idea, I wasn't sure if I wanted to hang out with anybody at the time, but they turned out to be good friends of mine. We would spend quite a bit of time together exploring Portugal. These new friends that I would make were named Teresa and Carlos, a brother and sister from Valencia, and their cousin, Fiorellina. There was one other person there as well who spoke the most English out of everyone and was able to translate some of the Spanish that I was trying to speak to the other Spanish speakers. We found one cafe that was open early enough for us to sit and drink, and we each had about 2 cups of coffee talking about all sorts of things. I found out that Carlos was a door maker. He showed me a few pictures. He would design doors and build them. I thought that was pretty sick. We walked around for the rest of the day, explored. We saw the famous bridge in Lisbon, Portugal, which is actually almost identical to the Golden Gate Bridge that goes from San Francisco over to Marin County. It was really weird to see. You're like looking at the bridge and you're like, I know the Golden Gate Bridge, that's not it. But apparently they're sister bridges. For lunch we went to this very popular place. I believe it was Portuguese food, and we shared fish, beef, lamb, a bunch of wine. We got dessert. We felt very full after that, and we were walking around the city just having fun. This is a picture of all of us during our nice day. You can see that we're all quite silly and very happy people. We got together later that day and got pizza and beer. Then we said goodbye. I thought I wouldn't really see them again. Now, since I had learned to surf in Morocco, I really wanted to surf in Portugal, as I heard that it was a really good place to do so. But it looked too expensive for me. I would have to take public transportation really far to get to a surfing area, and it was like €25 a day, and I really didn't want to spend that amount of money on surfing. Instead, I looked around at the sites in Lisbon, and there's plenty. There's beautiful architecture in Lisbon. It looked very similar to San Francisco in a lot of aspects, and that made me feel right at home. It was about this time in my travels where I started getting really tired of tourism. It was kind of a conflicting idea in my head because obviously I'm a tourist. That's not a country that I live in, I'm just visiting and I'm exploring. But the typical tourism where people wear a certain type of clothes and they go to only the specific attractions, a lot of them not aware of their surroundings, so they'll just be in your way and not move. There was just something about it. I started getting a little disgusted by the whole tourism industry. I know that Portugal, along with many other countries, their economy runs on tourism. That's like the biggest way for them to make money, and so of course it's fine. I just didn't really want to be involved with that crowd anymore. I wanted to explore as much as possible without going to the big sites where thousands of people go. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of my photos from Portugal, actually from a lot of the other countries that I go over in this series as well, and I'm trying to recover them from a bad external drive that kind of, lost everything. But I do have a few pictures from this time, as well as some videos. From Lisbon, there's an easy town to get to, which is called Sintra. And there's this awesome castle there that you have to hike up a mountain to get to. It was very foggy, very jungly, and I was absolutely in love with it. There were some cool people at the hostel in Sintra, and I played drinking games and cards with them. The one that I remember the most is Mustafa. I believe he was studying law or already a lawyer, and we traveled together to go see this incredible site that's like this, some kind of palace in the mountains with really beautiful art and paintings. Portugal is amazing for two reasons. It's beautiful and it's cheap, and that's all you need to have a good traveling country. For example, I drink a lot of coffee, and a coffee, even in a main city like Lisbon, is €1 or less. €1 is about maximum cost for a coffee. You can also get a glass of wine for €1. So I drink a lot of coffee and I drink a lot of wine, okay? What do you want? From Sintra, I went back to Lisbon to stay for a day or two. The lady in that hostel gave me my first taste of port, which is a sweet red wine that comes out of Portugal. It's like very sweet, like a dessert wine. I had never tried it and I loved it, and I ended up drinking a lot of that for the rest of my time in Portugal. I went out to look for a restaurant to eat at, and I heard a loud whistle behind me, and I turned around, and what do you know, it was the Spanish peeps, Carlos, Teresa, and Fiorellina. It took me a while to warm up my Spanish-speaking skills, but we got off to having a good time, ate dinner, and drank wine together as usual. And I was so happy to have run into them because we got to hang out the next day as well, which was one of my best days in Portugal. Portugal, as you might know, has decriminalized drugs. That happened in 2001, and they did it because they had a rising problem with people taking drugs on the street and getting addicted, mainly stuff that you inject. Not only did they decriminalize the drugs, but they expanded social work and greater resources for addicts, such as improving prevention, treatment, more harm reduction, and access to clean needles and such so that there was less spread of disease. The decriminalization basically means if you get caught with some drugs that's only a personal supply, which they would say a 10-day supply or less, then instead of being sent to jail and just sitting in there and getting back out and doing drugs, you're typically sent to a local commission where they teach you about your resources that you have available to you for treatment and for rehabilitation. Now, this doesn't include drug dealers, right? If you have large amounts of drugs, you still go to prison. They were just trying to lessen the crime for people who are addicted to drugs. According to Time.com, the percentage of people in prison for drug-related offenses dropped from 44% in 1999 down to 24% in 2013, which is a significant decrease. Also, the people in drug treatment increased by over 60% from 1998 to 2011. But anyway, after that long tangent, we were making fun of these guys on the street who sell drugs to random people, usually tourist-looking people. And they just kind of walk up next to you and they're whispering, hash, hash, cocaine, marijuana, marijuana. It's kind of creepy actually, but they're just trying to see if you want to buy any drugs from them. And you just kind of like, no thanks man, go away. Sometimes they're a little pushy, but they're not violent or anything. Although I really liked Lisbon, Portugal, because it reminded me of San Francisco, Porto was even more amazing. I'd never really been to a city like it before. The Spanish squad and I, we were walking over by this giant bridge that we wanted to cross, and we saw kids jumping off of it. I was like, I'm gonna do that. But I wasn't ready to do it right away, so we found this shorter spot where I could jump off and do some flips before I did my bridge jump. This front flip, I kind of slammed pretty hard and knocked the air out of myself. What are you gonna do?
Okay.
The bridge jump was fun as well. I felt like it was really tall. But as you can see, the spot I jumped from, the children, probably 10, 11, 12 years old, were jumping from the very top, like 10 feet above where I was jumping. And all the tourists' mouths were gaping and they were exclaiming, oh my gosh. I don't think a lot of people have seen a kid that small jump from something that tall before.
Loco, crazy.
It was really fun to jump from that bridge though. I'm glad I got to do that. Teresa and Carlos jumped from the lower part where I did my front flip from. I was very proud of them for that. Good job, you guys. I stayed a few more days in Porto and then I decided to start my way towards France. I was going to Paris to meet up with my friend Toby. It was actually really hard to get to France. For whatever reason, I missed a couple trains and then I was gonna take a flight all the way into Paris and things just weren't going my way, so I was getting really frustrated. The only thing that kept me going was the excitement of seeing Toby Pechner. A little joke Toby and I had as we were getting closer to our meetup was posting on social media, Toby? Or Roland? So these are those little videos. I took a train from the airport to where I was gonna meet Toby, and then what do you know, I found him in Paris, France. And when we finally saw each other, we ran up and hugged and smiled. It just felt really trippy seeing each other in a different country and felt very at home. Toby is a musician, a great guy, very nice, and he also follows his dreams, and I respect that about a man. In fact, he went through an entire college degree, started working in San Francisco, and just couldn't handle the 9 to 5, figured out it wasn't for him, and so he quit, and now he's a full-time musician. That's really cool. Toby, just so you know, you've been part of the inspiration of me, full-time going into this YouTube stuff, following my dreams. Let's get there! Hello, sir. So yeah, hello. This is Toby Pechner, one of my best friends, super cool dude, smart guy, musician, jokester, and...
Ninja in crime. Ninja partner in crime.
Okay, I'll take that.
I think we had planned it like a month or two before.
Yeah.
But I remember that the plan was just to like meet in Paris. I got a ticket in and out of Paris, and then we were gonna figure it out from there.
Right.
But like I've only traveled not with my family, like one other time outside of the country, and it was with my best friend Danny. You know, I mean, just from the beginning of your trip when we like drove to Oregon to like drop you off on the first flight, it was like I was so jealous. It was like just like to be able to go and experience whatever was out there without having like necessarily an agenda or just to kind of explore in that way. So it was like to have an opportunity to like tag along for even a couple weeks was like beyond awesome.
Yeah, I remember you asking me, you're like, should we plan things out, or, you know, what are you doing? And I was like, nah, I'm just kind of moving around, and that worked out perfect for us. It was really refreshing for me, too, because, like, I made a lot of good friends along the way, but nobody that I've known for such an extended period of time and that I'm so close to. So, France, yeah. We had to take a big adventure to go find a lady who had the key to the place we were going to stay. Couldn't communicate with her at all, but she gave us a key, and it worked out to be the house we would stay in.
It was a total just like trust experiment to be like, this is exactly where you need to go, and if you go here, you'll get what you need. Mm-hmm. But it was like the whole time I was skeptical. It was just like it ended up working out.
It did. What I had written in my journal, we woke up a little bit later than we wanted to at like 11 a.m. the next day. We wanted to get a lot more done. We ended up walking around. We rented bicycles, rode along the river. You filmed a bit of my parkour. There were some guys who really didn't want me climbing on stuff. Do you remember that?
I feel like Paris is not a good parkour city for that. Well, I know it's a good parkour city because I've seen like crazy videos, but I feel like people are not, like, security is not down with people jumping off of things.
Is it still down there?
Yeah. It's created here, big man. We can't just be
Forbidden.
I feel like Paris was pretty. We left like it was raining in Paris. We ended up seeing like 2 movies and like played pool for like hours. Mm-hmm. Sat at cafes and played cards.
Toby also taught me this card game, Big Two or Deuces. Has a few different names, but it turns out I'm obsessed with it. Unfortunately, Toby's very good at that game, and I just spent all my time losing, but he taught me some good points as well. And Toby, I'm gonna keep practicing, and someday I'm gonna come kick your ass.
I mean, I know we went to the Louvre outside of it at least, and everybody was doing the like where you put your finger on top of the Louvre.
Yeah.
And and there was just like 15 people all standing like this. But I don't remember a lot from Paris other than that.
The baked goods in Paris, France? Ooh, wow, oui. Would you like to have a café and a croissant? The baked goods are delicious. Toby brought along some tasty cannabis mints, and we had those throughout our travels together. For 2 days while we were there, it basically just was a downpour the whole time. So we ate his special mints, and we went to the movie theater. We watched the Spider-Man out at that time. We saw Baby Driver as well, which is a damn good movie. And we played a ton of pool at this pool house we found. So Paris was all right. It was fun because I was with Toby, but everything's very expensive there. And after being in Portugal where everything's cheap, it wasn't a fun transition. Toby and I decided next to travel to Brussels in Belgium. We took our bus ride there and walked 30 minutes over to the hostel. We went out for dinner, which I remember being very average. But the funny part of that dinner was they gave us a little, what we thought was cheese, and we split it and each ate a half. About halfway through eating it, we realized it was butter, and that we were just eating very fluffy butter. Alright, that covers this episode, which is Portugal and France, where I met up with Toby. I'll be with Toby for the next few episodes. We had a badass time together, lots of adventures, and I'll tell you more about those in episode 7, where we explore Brussels, and we play music, and then we go to Amsterdam, and we do some fun stuff there as well. Thanks for being a trooper and watching through this. We'll see you in episode 7. Peace out, motherfucker.